Howdy folks, Tex Grebner here with Tex Grebner Outdoors. Hope you guys are ready for your Tex Grebner Outdoors Saturday morning cartoon awesomeness, because we're going to be making it weird. This is going to be an urban bushcraft video talking about urban bushcraft spearfishing. Now, granted, I am sure that there is a bunch of underwater spearfishing equipment out there on the market today, and there's a lot of bow fishing equipment out on the market today. But there isn't a whole lot of, beyond frog gigs, at least in what I've been able to see, there isn't a whole lot of spear throwing from the bank type bow fishing equipment, or spear fishing equipment that is. So I hope that if you're interested, that this video is going to be helpful to you. Now, I talk about urban bushcraft in this video, and I do have kind of a hot take on bushcraft culture in this video as well, versus primitive hunters. So hopefully you're going to sit through that, and I mean, as if the internet ever really needs a reason to hate me. Anyways, I hope you guys are going to enjoy this week's episode of Tex Grebner Outdoors. If you guys want a discount on all your trad life supplies, use the code of Tex Grebner in your checkout at Three Rivers Archery. On orders over $100, it will give you free shipping. Now obviously Three Rivers Archery has their own $100 free shipping code, but using the Tex Grebner code shows your support for Tex Grebner Outdoors, especially if you're actually getting into bow fishing for the first time and you're needing to buy a full kit. Now, you will be able to get a bow fishing point for this urban bushcraft fishing dart comparatively affordably at Three Rivers Archery as well, so you got that going for you. Now, if you guys are looking for some high-end hunting ammunition between 30-06 all the way up to 505 Gibbs, check out my friends over at Aria Ballistic Engineering. Or if you want to make a 12-gauge killer rhino, they've got some super overpowered 12-gauge ammunition that's basically epic. Now, if you're looking to armor the front of your arrows with the Ethics Archery system, use the code TGO10 in your checkout for a 10% off on your purchase price. This here is your standard bow fishing point. It's also really important to me that this is something that you can urban bushcraft yourself with minimal tools. So get a bow fishing point. And this here is your standard driveway flag or golf cart flag. Just going to, with my new cold steel drop forge, slice that off there, cover this with epoxy, and if you're curious what the heck I'm doing, I'm showing you how to make a fast and dirty urban bushcraft and pretty cost-effective fish dart. It's that simple. Something that's always bothered me, and this is going to be a hot take, but it's been a while since I've really shot off my mouth and pissed off the internet, so here we go. There are bushcrafters, and then there are primitive hunters. A bushcrafter, in my experience of consuming social media, will do things, and they can be amazing at shelter building and fire and such, but they aren't necessarily proficient at hunting skills. Whereas if they were good at hunting, instead of calling themselves a bushcrafter, I feel like they would call themselves a primitive hunter. Because in order to be a primitive hunter, you need a certain level of bushcraft. Just look at Clay Hayes and how he did so well on Alone. So anyways, if you are a bushcrafter, that's fine. I don't look down upon you. We have our own eccentricities. Another thing that pisses me off is when people do arts and crafts style videos with primitive skills, that it's all Hobby Lobby and it's clear that they aren't taking it seriously. I take this seriously. I want to, in a consumer level way, make it so that you, the viewer, can replicate what I'm doing and have a reasonable expectation of having it work for you as a gateway drug into the uber primitive natural materials. So we have our bow fishing point adhered on well. I have not pinned it on here. because this method that I'm showing you is the fast and dirty, doesn't require power tools method. And when I said that this was standard, it's not actually standard. I don't think that there is a standard for fiberglass driveway rod. Just find a corresponding size outside diameter to the inside diameter that you can get over that. Glue it together. If you have access to a drill, you can pin it together. I use 550 cord, and I may texture this, but this would work really well to get more power if you did drill a knock in the end of this and actually use an oddle throwing arm. I'm much better with a spear throw rather than using the oddle throwing arm. So I may texture this for more grip. And I just have a clove hitch here and then electrical tape up here. Like, this is just fast and dirty. Now, even without the added leverage of the oddle, I believe that you could actually spear carp with this from the bank. Now, I've never actually spearfished underwater, so this entire tutorial is probably moot because there's probably already something out on the market already. But here we go. And we made it through the EVA foam just fine. It worked. Now, just to make sure, I'm going to try and hit a spot that I haven't hit before. But you would get much more power out of this if you were actually using an oddle arm. But like I say, I'm much more of a hands-on rather than the lever style of throwing. That was definitely a fresh spot. So, I am confident to say that this would actually work as I have presented it to you, because I don't want somebody to do a project that isn't going to work. So this here's a little bit more fancy. This is a broken Samburu that I turned down with a grinder and put a bow fishing point onto and epoxied on. And I made a new handle as well as putting texture on it. And this works great. But I wanted to make sure that I created something that pretty much anybody could create and enjoy, which is what originally spawned the idea for using the driveway flag or the golf cart flag and a bow fishing point. And I have used this with pretty fair success, but I tell you what, gar are very difficult to hit. Now, I have yet to actually acquire, and I may make sure that I get a hold of one before I actually publish this video, the new fishing spear that Tim Wells has put out. This is basically me recycling something to where I had a use for it. Now this, on the other hand, is just an idea that I had driving down the road. And darned if it doesn't work, or at least work good enough. As I said, it would be much more effective for an oddle, but overall, I would definitely say that this would work on carp. I don't know if it would have enough power to actually stick a gar, but I hope that this is helpful to you. We'll see if I actually get a hold of one of the Tim Wells spears. And we're back. It's a good thing that it takes me forever to actually have time to make a video, because I was able to order one of these Seahawks from Tim Wells and cost $100. I feel like it was definitely worth $100. Rubberized handle, good solid welds. Came with a field point for this, and this is probably a little bit aggressive for the carp and gar that I'm going to be using it on in the Illinois River, but it doesn't necessarily need my review, because Tim has used this to great effect on alligator and sharks, and I'm pretty sure that he's speared stingrays with this. But I figured that it would be worth, actually, from a customer standpoint, waiting and spending some money. That way you guys can get a really good overview of some urban bushcraft fishing that's on the market. So I'm not terribly familiar with this, so I'm hoping that I can land this in a take. Yeah, I like it when it works. Now, I will be completely honest, I prefer my Samburu spears to my saber tooth, because I'm just so used to them. But as far as a spearfishing setup, I feel like this thing is right on the money. Is it worth $100? Yeah, it's worth $100. It's got good welds, it's got a good finish, rubberized handle. Somebody bothered to invent it. Is it an impulse buy? Absolutely not, because it does cost $100 plus shipping. And I may fabricate up something to go over this with a bow fishing point so that it's not quite as aggressive, but we'll see. So overall, it does impress me. So this has evolved a little bit. As you can see, I put on a safety slider stop, drilled it out for an oddle, put on a safety slider here. Now what's funny is that I am really good with a spear, and you've seen me throw this thing pretty accurately, just throwing it like a spear. I'm basically terrible with an oddle. Now it does throw with a heck of a lot more power when I use the oddle, but it just really isn't my style. But it is proof of concept. Front to back, a Samburu spear has always been pretty tough. This one I had basically broken the head off of because I threw it into a tree being a grown-up 12-year-old, and then broke it off while I was trying to get it twisted out. But overall, front to back, a Samburu is pretty durable. The handles will break if you pole vault them. But I converted it into a fishing spear with a bow fishing point by grinding this down so that I could get a bow fishing point epoxied and hammered over it. I would not recommend this because it isn't remotely cost effective. This fiberglass dart that I've made, I feel like, yeah, I could recommend this because all you need is a bow fishing point and a corresponding size of outside diameter of driveway or golf cart flag. You don't have to get super fancy like I did by putting a safety slider on it. And I'm honestly better with this thing not using the oddle arm, but the oddle arm adds a whole bunch more power. If I need power, I'll use this or use this, but I do believe this might bounce off of a gar if you can actually hit it. But I feel like it would have no problem dealing with carp at close range. This, on the other hand, I feel like it's worth $100. So it's not necessarily uncost effective like this here, because this is a highly manufactured product that comes to you ready to go rather than this here. But it's not an impulse buy. This, I basically thought up driving down the road, went to the store and made it. Now if you're wondering what this here is, have no fear, there will eventually be a video on how I built my knife and tomahawk target back here. Just be patient. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode of Tex Grebner Outdoors, and I hope that it was helpful to you if you're interested in spear fishing from the bank. As always, God bless all my sportsmen of America. Join the NRA to protect our rights. Please come, my friends, over at threeriversarchery.com. Thank you very much to those of you involved in law enforcement, you good cops out there, and those of you serving in the military ready to die for freedom anywhere. And thanks for watching Tex Grebner Outdoors.